Thanks for tuning in for another episode of Buckle Up with Simon and Brian, an ultra running podcast. How are you doing this evening, Simon?
Brian, I'm doing absolutely fantastic. But my
Are you
question to you,
sure?
Brian,
Are you sure you're doing fantastic, Simon? You just got
I,
out of Zion.
yeah, I know I look like shit and I'm tired and I'm in pain. But thanks for reminding me, Brian, about the pain everywhere in my body except in my knees. And of course, my question, Brian, is how are your knees today?
Well, thanks for asking, Simon. I know you're always concerned about my knees. I get a lot of text messages and emails now asking about my knees as well. So this has been a big hit, and I appreciate it. My knees are doing great. Training's going well. We are 3 weeks out from Cocodona, and you were supposed to have ran Zion as a test for your gear for Cocodona. How did that go this weekend, Simon?
Well, one correction is I was supposed to power hike Zion Ultra and use it as a dress rehearsal. I got lazy. I decided to not bring my gear. That was the extra gear for Cocodona, and I just ran it. And it was a really bad race for me. That happens. I often say that the race didn't go as I was hoping, but this time it's true. It did not go as I was hoping. And the only kind of positive to that is that we often say that if you have a bad dress rehearsal, then the real deal will be good. So now I'm very confident that Cocodona will run extremely smoothly. That's really the only positive conclusion of the weekend. Other than it was an amazing adventure. Zion Ultra is one of my favorite race. And I met so many nice people out there suffering with me. I realized also at some point that I think I'm sadistic. I like to see other people suffer. That makes me feel less alone during a race. So thanks everyone for struggling with me.
I had a lot of friends at Zion, including yourself, and it kind of gave me some FOMO. And so it's on my radar, Simon. It bumped it up into the top 10 races on my bucket list that I need to do before my knees get really bad and I can't run anymore. Um, but speaking of
I'm,
Zion, our our friend Fanny Barrette has ran Zion, I believe, right? And she's our guest today.
yes, I was very excited that we would have Fanny on this episode today. So for anyone who's followed my channel, Fanny has been kind of a regular. Actually, we've raced quite a few races together in the past few years. She's this bundle of joy. She's always happy, even when everything around is pain and suffering, she is still smiling, she is still laughing, and she's still full of energy. I met Fanny in 2022. We ran the Grand Slam together. So don't get fooled by her small stature. She is an amazing runner. The Grand Slam is a big deal. You run 400 miler over the summer. In our case, it was Old Dominion, Western State for her, um, Vermont, and Wasatch. And I remember seeing her the first time at Old Dominion and thinking, not thinking much, honestly, thinking she's just a very average runner. Maybe she won't do it. But I very quickly discovered that she's not just positive, but also extremely resilient and extremely well organized. And she learns a lot. So this conversation was very helpful as we're all gearing up for Cocodona, which is for all three of us our big race this year, the big adventure.
Yeah, that's right. If you don't know who Fanny Barrett is, you should look her up on Ultra Sign Up, and it is just deep with results, and they're they're pretty quick times. They're impressive times as well in there. So it's not like she's just doing a barrage of events and just getting by. She's competitive. She's up there in the front. So it was great to reconnect with her. I first met Fanny. Through you, Simon, when we paced you at Badwater last year at 23. We did some Zoom calls for pre-race meeting stuff because Badwater's pretty intricate as far as their crew goes and the logistics side of it. So that was well needed and it worked in our advantage later on down the road. But as when I met Fanny, I realized how organized she was. She had everything right in the right spot all the time, all weekend at Badwater.
Couple of other stories I really want to say about Fanny because we didn't get to talk about it during the podcast itself. But one of the things is why I picked her as part of my Badwater crew. Badwater is obviously a big deal, and I wanted that when I'm at my lowest, I would have someone like Fanny to turn to, that I knew no matter how bad I would look, she would she would lie to me, and she would say something positive, and she would make me smile, and she would change my mind from the pain, and instead just enjoying the adventure for what it is, despite the fact that it's a big challenge.
And looking through her ultra sign up, Simon, I realized that she had done an event that we both have done as well, which is Ouray, which is a really challenging 100 miler in southwest Colorado in the San Juan Mountains. It's got 43,000 vertical gain. It has all sorts of weather issues or concerns, I guess. 2 nights, 52-hour cutoff. And Fanny finished really well at it.
Yeah, and I'm really happy you bring that one up also, because Fanny was kind of my inspiration a little bit to do that race, which turned out to be the hardest race I've ever done. And it's also the one race I was scared about, because she struggled at that race. She DNF'd once and then she came back. And I felt if someone like Fanny, who always finds ways, had to DNF 1 year, Ouray, that's gonna happen to me. And I was really, really worried about it. I don't know if you remember, Brian, but before the race, I was kind of more scared than usual and thinking, look, I'm gonna do my best today, but I don't see me finishing that. We were lucky though; the weather was much better than when she raced it.
That's right, Simon. I did notice Fanny does have one DNF on her record. It is a 2018 Ouray, but she finished in 2021. That year had the first 24 hours had torrential downpours, mudslides across these dirt roads, these old mining roads. I was crewing for a runner that year in 21 for the first day, and he DNF'd pretty early on. I want to say about 48 miles in or so. Dude, it was just extreme conditions. So for Fanny to suck it up and finish in 2021, that just speaks to her character.
For it, yeah, and coming back for it, I think when you fall down, getting back up is difficult. And in a race like that, it would be easy to look at it and say, look, this is too hard for me. I tried, I suffered so much. This is not for me. But she regrouped, she came back, and she overcame, which I have tremendous respect for. I think that's something that is absolutely amazing, and it speaks volume to her character.
Yeah, again, it was great reconnecting with Fanny. And without further ado, here's our conversation with Fanny Barrette. Enjoy.
Hey, Fanny, how are you doing?
Good, and you?
Very good. Thanks for taking the invite. Really excited to have you on this podcast.
Yes, always happy to chat about trail running.
Yeah, and ultra running, sometimes like bad water, no trail, only pavement. That's something
right.
I really need to say when we're all there, is like, thank you to both of you. Were my hero pacer when I did bad
Right.
water. So it's a great reunion without the heat.
Mm-hmm.
As well, good to see you, Fanny. Always
Yes,
to
nice
chat
to see
with
you, Brian. It's been a while, yeah.
Yeah, and we have this amazing adventure, all three of us. Well, I mean, plus a few hundred other people, which is Cocodona coming up very, very soon. And I'm getting very nervous about it. How's the preparation going for you, Fanny?
Me too. I thought I was ahead, and now I haven't done much lately. But yeah, it's getting nervous too. Lots still to do. Yeah.
I mean, you say that, but I know you also. You're probably very prepared, and then you're wondering, little question like, what's the color of the socks you should bring? Whereas I'm thinking, what state is Cocodona in? Is it Arizona? I think it's Arizona. It's not Utah, but let's confirm that before going there.
What about you, Brian? How you feeling about Cocodona?
Dona, as we record this, is actually 3 weeks away from today. It's pretty dang fast, and I feel pretty good. And maybe I'm talking that up a little bit to make myself feel better about my training, but I'm feeling pretty decent actually. Good couple weekends of training. This weekend, I did some sweeping for an event. I picked up all the flagging, walked for a couple hours at night through the night. picking up flagging and helping the last final runner get in. And then I did some other training with Mark and Leanne down in the state line of Colorado, Utah. So, yeah, between that and last weekend, the training's coming along pretty well. Starting to dial in some of the gear, and I really need to pull up the maps as I do my taper. Typically, my approach is to start getting into the paperwork side of it, like reading the maps, the directions we're going. The aid stations, the distances. How about you guys? Do you have any crew, Fanny, coming out, or what's your plan for crew and pacers? What's that look like for you?
Yeah, I have a couple coming. So Gwen and Keith. Gwen's gonna be my crew chief, and Keith's gonna be my pacer. That was part of the deal. He wants to come. He said if he can pace me for 200K, he'll be happy to come. So I'm like, you're in. So they are actually going to travel from Oregon with their trailer and their dog. Marley's going to come too. Yeah, so I'm very excited. I already had 2 Zoom meetings with them. I actually haven't met Gwen in person yet. I met Keith only once. I went running with him once. So it's going to be pretty excited to get to know them very well, I guess, after the week. So I'm very lucky to have them. So we had a few meetings where I draft my chart, so I already have done that. Try to plan where I'm going to sleep. As you already mentioned, about sleeping, you have to go when. I think I agree with you, Brian. You explained when you feel that you're tired. That's when I'm going to plan to go. But in the ideal world, I did put it in all the way from the first night. I'm actually planning to, if I can sleep, I'm going to sleep up to 2 hours if I can.
Yeah, that's exactly what I meant between the level of what you mean by I'm not so well prepared. To me, I'm understanding that I will sleep at some point, but the when people ask me how long do you think it's gonna take, I was like, well, anywhere between 80 and 120 hour. I have literally no clue. So good to see you're preparing well. Is it your first 200 plus mile? I can't remember.
Yes, it is.
That is daunting. How do you approach that actually, to even think about how much sleep will you need during a race that you've never really come close to doing?
I mean, the longest I've done is the Fat Dog, 120-ish mile. Or at UTMB too, it was over 2 nights. And because UTMB you start in the evening, it's even longer. But I've been listening to lots of podcasts, and I learned that despite the fact that I know I can go 2 nights without sleeping, it's the going to the 4th night that's where it's gonna pay off if you don't accumulate the fatigue. So I've been trying to listen to podcasts at UTMB. They'll even have guests talking about the military, how to do it, and they use the 20-minute nap and try to go to a full sleep cycle of sleep to try to wake up in between. That's easier on you when you wake up. I'm going to try that, but I've heard the theory. I've been hearing about it, but I always heard also that you have to go when you're tired. Don't waste time. If you cannot fall asleep, just get up and keep going. So you have to adapt.
Yeah,
but
I think that's a really good point, and I think I'm being defensive about my capabilities also of doing Cocodona, and have not run that far, and I always go by time also. And you're right, Fat Dog took you a very long time, I'm sure. Ouray probably took you a very long time also. So it's not like we don't have experience running events that are longer than 24 hours. Just the distance is different, but the sleep deprivation will probably be similar and then even worse. So yeah, I'm nervous about it too. I hear a lot of people say 20-minute nap. I tried this weekend at Zion and that did not work. 20-minute was not enough. I needed the 40-minute for myself. But after 40 minutes, it was a hard reset. I could run again as if almost nothing happened. So that was a huge difference for me. And it was funny because I literally I was 94 miles in. I could have finished. I felt, I think if I tried, I could sleep. And that would kind of do like I will do at Cocodona. So let's just take a long nap. And that felt so good. I didn't want to go afterwards, though.
Did you do it at the aid station, Simon, or did you roll up in the burrito in the dirt somewhere?
It was at the aid station, though. So that's maybe also the difference, where we might not have the choice and we might need to sleep on the side of the trail instead of a very cozy kind of cot with a sleeping bag. So I had a good setting to actually sleep well. But it did magic. sleep is underrated. I think it's incredible how much I was different after that.
How do you feel about a dirt nap in Arizona with the scorpion, tarantula, and snakes? I'm
I
not.
felt fine before you mentioned all of these things. Thank you very much. That's really appreciated. I don't think I feel bad about it. Brian might know more about it, but I feel that a lot of these insects or cold blood animals won't necessarily be as active at night, so not necessarily as worried. But Brian, should I worry about it? Is there another thing I'm supposed to be stressed about?
I don't know. I mean, we could worry about everything, right? And you know, to kind of like jump on your point, Simon, I don't think that I know I'll lay down in the dirt during the day. So yeah, even though they're inactive at night, I might take a dirt nap in the middle of the day, crawl under a tree. I take a quick once over of all my surroundings. Where I live, it's like mountain lions and other things. It's not the little ones, it's the big ones. So luckily, I could see a big ass mountain lion. Hopefully, if he was nearby me. But scorpions and snakes. I mean, I think you just kind of clean off a spot. You kind of look at a safe space. You know, look for obvious signs like holes or little habitats that they might live in, spiders in webs and you know those sorts of things. But I don't think you can be fearful of it enough to not use the nap. I mean, you're going to have to use the nap, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like it's such a basic thing, right? That there's no way you're going to race Cocodona. And for anyone who's not familiar with the race, it's 250-mile point to point in Arizona. There's no way you're not going to sleep at some point. That's for runner like us or power hiker like us. It's 4 to 5 days. You can't just not sleep at all. So then the question is more how little sleep can you get away with, or how much benefit is there to sleep a little bit more. And I've heard different theories. Some people are definitely more prolonged nap, and some people are more you sleep only when you absolutely must. I think I'm gonna do the first one, to sleep too much, so that I'm energetic a little bit. But to each their own. Brian has a lot of experience doing 200 miler, so looking to him for advice for sure.
I think that Cocodona in particular, I'm not familiar with the course in full, but I know like will be lower and warmer on the first 2 days, and as we get higher, I think your risk of those insects, to get back to the insect deal, or the snakes and spiders and scorpions, I think the higher we get, the less likely you are to encounter those creatures. They're going to still be a little cooler still in April or May.
Yeah, I'm actually familiar with the second half of the course because I did Sedona last year, and I think for me the real worry I will have for the second portion of sleeping on the side of the trail is what I think is a real concern, which is hypothermia, and I think you can get cold very quickly when you're above in the Tonto or whatever, the forest over there. It can get pretty cold at night. It was actually snowing a little bit on some portion of my night. So if you're just sleeping on the side of the trail, you get wet and you just don't generate as much heat because you're not running. I think that can be a little bit of an issue. But if it's in the middle of the day, you're fine, except for the mountain lion.
Yeah, definitely. It's nice that we have access to all those YouTube videos where we can see prior years. I saw how people are dressed up for the second, like the last night, going to Mount Eldon, and I don't think I never brought. I'm gonna definitely bring warmer clothes than I probably ever have for that race, just to be prepared.
Do you have some favorite in terms of video about that YouTube video?
Wes Plate, I don't know if I pronounced his last name correctly. Sally McRae, I really enjoyed. I have another one that was just out. We have the Facebook group that he just put there. I keep it for this week. It's supposed to snow here again, maybe tonight. So I can probably gonna watch it tomorrow.
Yeah. Did you guys ever see the Phil Clark one? I think it's like 8 hours. I think it's like 8 hours of like him running down the trail. And it's no offense, Phil, if you're listening. I do know Phil. It's a lot of good footage. Unfortunately, it's kind of slow and a little boring after 8 hours. So I watched it in pieces, but it gives you a lot of good understanding of the terrain out there. At 8 hours, it's quite a bit of footage. That's an option for us as well to watch.
That reminds me, I think there was Aaron also that was a pretty long, detailed one, but he was local. And I like how he can explain, the local place where he worked. And that was interesting for the long treadmill run. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, 8 hours is a little much. It's
Yes.
it's almost the Lord of the Ring trilogy. So like one or the other, it's a little different. But I can relate to it though, because having done YouTube videos about race, I think what you do in a race recap is somewhat different than what you would do in a more, let's talk about the course itself. And one is more story oriented and like, this is something that happened and I was puking, which is absolutely irrelevant for someone who's looking for insights about the course itself and how the trail is. And when you do the trail specifically, sometimes there's not much to say, but you want to show it anyway. But yeah, 8 hours is probably a little much. I might focus on West Plate myself. I think the guy is super relatable and he has good advice. And he's definitely not a pro runner, and therefore he doesn't have the sponsorship and all the gears he wants. He gets what he needs, and he gets it done basically. And he has a lot of experience having done the Triple Crown of 200. So super relatable guy. And yeah, I'm going to watch all of his stuff. I've watched a fair amount, but I'll definitely continue.
Yeah, I think he's done them all and will be there this year as well with us.
Yeah, I was about to say, I like also to watch the one from last year, 2023, because the course will be quite similar this year, so you can visualize a bit more. Simon, I don't know if you're aware, but the Sedona 125, they changed the course.
I was not aware.
So yeah,
they don't do Eldon.
They don't do Eldon, but what I was surprised, if you watch, actually Cocodona puts good videos about different team. One of them was like the nutrition, and they talk about all the course changes. And I was surprised there's about, I think, 4 places where we don't follow the 125. So it might be more confusing this year. Yeah, they're going to take a shuttle to avoid Mount Eldon, but other places, because of the Mexican spotted owl, they are in risk of extinction. So to protect them, they limited the number of runners in some section, and other sections because of flowers. And I can't remember. There's a third reason. Yeah, so that might be something to keep in mind when you follow a runner. Make sure you follow the right person, because you might miss a turn. So it would be
make sure you don't follow me. Basically, that's rule number 1 of ultra running is don't follow Simon. He has no clue where he's going. But that's interesting. They don't do Eldon, but do they still do the Eldon 36 though? The shorter race.
250. It's only a 250 because they have to limit the number of runner at 270. That's my understanding.
So there was a race. There was the last year. There was 250, 125, and I think 36.
Yeah.
And the name
30,
it was literally Eldon 36.
Yeah. 36.
So it would be weird if they don't go up top of that. They would need to change the name. So I don't know.
Potentially, but I thought the 125 now circumnavigates it, so maybe you could still call it Eldon, even though you're not summiting it. You're just circumnavigating it. Who knows, though? I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a bummer.
But interesting enough, we were just talking about this before I hit the record button, that we were talking about mishaps this past weekend that Simon and I witnessed or had experiences with. And that navigation is going to be kind of tricky and critical and late in the race, like for people that are a little delirious, including myself, and trying to figure out if I'm the green flagging or the blue flagging or whatever the markings are. Yeah, that's going to be challenging. So something else to throw in the mix.
Yeah,
right?
definitely be aware so you're not surprised about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think having a pacer is, towards the end of the race is probably the most critical. I won't have one, so I'll rely on my watch for this. But yeah, it's after a few days, your brain won't be all there to make the right decision sometimes. So I'll rely. I was hoping to rely on runner from the shorter distances, but
yeah, exactly. Exactly. You cannot.
That's bad planning.
Yeah. Speaking of which, also, I like to download the course. I think it might save lots of extra miles. So I think that would be very good. Wise. I think it's mandatory to have it on your phone, but I think if you have it on your watch and it can beep with something to let you know when you're in the wrong course, that would be useful. So they did warn to wait just a week before to download it, because they might have other changes.
Yeah, and I think it's really an interesting thing to have them ask us to wait that long. It really shows how complicated it is for them to run an event like that. The point to point for that distance, there's a lot of permit. There's a lot of things that can happen in terms of there's a huge storm the week before and the trail is just washed out somewhere and they need to change the course last minute. It's a huge endeavor for them to run that race, which I give them a lot of credit and props to. But yeah, I'll wait 1 week before for the course download. And I think that's a tip that like maybe not everyone knows how to do it. So I should make a video about that. It's very easy to download the GPX watch and have it on your watch. And it can literally save your race. Because you're not always on your phone checking for the map, but your watch will tell you immediately that you're off trail.
Did you guys like to download just a segment at the time or the whole course? Because I tried out for the first time, pacing a friend who was doing the Divide 200, and just having the segment was nice because it was telling me how far to the aid station as opposed to, looking at the how many miles to the end. Maybe there is a way to do that. I just don't know.
And maybe a new watch can support that, but my watch, if I try to have a course that is that long, will really struggle big time and might crash. So I'm gonna do segment by segment, just for practical reason. That's how I've done it in the past, also. And it's not much more complicated to say, okay, like stop following this track, change to the other track. It's just a few button click when you know what you're doing.
I feel like I'm a techie person, but I don't know why I don't like to have the data on my watch for any reason whatsoever. I only use my phone, and I only like to have it in one big loop. I don't like segments at all because then I'm like, they're not in order sometimes. Like it's maybe they're in alphabetical order, and like you're going from segment 1 to segment 6, and you have to like scroll to find the proper segment. At least in the apps that I use to get there.
If you want my tip is to name the segment 1, segment 2, segment 3, and then they are listed in the right order. But
there you go.
I'm not the tech guy, Brian.
Yeah. Well, they come listed with names on them. At least at Moab they do, and they upload like not alphabetically, or I mean they upload alphabetically, which puts them not in their correct order. So you're like, what? What am I doing? Why is it like this? But going back to course changes or the last minute, and my experiences with Destination Trails in Moab, they've made course changes in the middle of the event, like ahead of runners. Like they were in the first 100 miles, and a snowstorm hit the second 100-mile section, and they rerouted them and for all these different solutions. But they had to change it on the fly. And again, to Simon's point, it's just a huge undertaking to travel this far in this many miles, and things happen even in race week, right? So nothing's really guaranteed, even if we do download those files. It gives us a peace of mind as long as it stays consistent, but things do change as well. So
yeah, I mean, if a race goes smoothly and you don't see everything that goes under the hood, like it's a good sign. But there's so much happening, and so many little things could go wrong for a race to be kind of a disaster. Just like if you think about not having enough water at the aid station, or not having enough food, or just some course marking are a bit unclear and half the people go the wrong direction. Any of these things happening, a race can be a total disaster. So it's easy to complain when something goes wrong in a race because you notice what went wrong, but you don't notice everything that just went kind of or their ability to reroute in the middle of the race, though, is an interesting one. Yeah.
On a different topic, what are your guys' strategy for the headlamps, like for the lightning, for having that many for 4 nights, potentially 5 nights? Yeah.
I'm gonna rely on my Cocodona as my main lamp, and I'll have the pelts. But I think you just need to recharge at every aid station, so you need to have the connection. I'm not gonna do anything special. I was factoring or considering, and I guess I'm not finalized on everything. Maybe getting a headlamp that has more normal batteries, because it's a little easier to, if like something goes wrong or your batteries are dead, you just find a random crew and say, do you happen to have AAA battery for me, as opposed to like a pelts, like these specialized battery, they can't just give you that. But yeah, I think I'm just gonna do what I usually do. I usually carry 3 sources of light though, so I'm kind of like fail proof on my fail proof, 2 layers, even if they would lose my drop bag sometimes. So yeah,
I do like Simon's idea of having the generic maybe headlamp, maybe a Walmart brand one or something. I mean, I'm not trying to promote Walmart by any means, but if you are listening, Walmart, I would take a headlamp. But I would also take a bucket full of AAA batteries as well, Walmart. But really, because we go through towns and this race is unique, you might be able to hit a gas station and get a little pack of extra batteries along the way if a crew didn't have it or whatnot. Somebody might be able to say, hey, there's a little convenience store around the corner that'll have that feature. So that's a great idea. My current plan is to use my Ultra Spire lights. I have the 800 lumen. I have 2 of them. Actually, I have 3 of them. And I'm going to bring all 3 of them. They all have the same battery and the same charger. So that just like Simon, I'm going to use the aid stations as best as possible to recharge. But 3 lamps should get me through at least 2 nights on their single charge. And I will bring a backup battery pack as well. I'll have a crew driver only. I'm not sure about pacers just yet for myself.
Yeah.
I'm still in the hunt. But right now I have a crew driver that will drive my vehicle to every aid station. So I also plan on maybe having 1 light in the car that's charging as I'm using 2. And then keep alternating those out, kind of switching those out.
That's
How about you, Fanny? What's your plan?
I'm bringing my Cocodona. I haven't used it that much. The first time I tried to use it, it wasn't working, and then I got a replacement. And I was just emailing actually with Rebecca, and she told me after 4 hours, sometimes you just have to shut it down completely, which I didn't know. So maybe that was my issue in the past when I thought it wasn't using that many hours. But then they were saying that the pack take up to 8 to 9 hours to recharge. That's why I was a bit like, do I have that long to recharge? Obviously, at the sleep station, be there max couple of hours. But it's a good point. While the crew is driving, I can ask them to recharge. So I'll have, I borrowed 2 to my friend Yvonne. So I should have 3 battery packs. And like Simon, I have 3 sources of like Cocodona. I bought a new, just a waist lamp, just as a backup. That would use regular batteries I can buy anywhere, and my pretzel. So, so should be. And I'm probably going to have another one just in case. I like to have so many backups. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think the ultimate backup is always to have a smile and beg for a light to some crew or something. That usually works out. That's definitely not the first backup, but eventually people are there to help you and support you. I think that's actually, I was talking with Nora, who supports me on a lot of race, and we were just talking about how the crew is there to support their main runner, but they're really there to support each other's crew and also other runner. Like, you won't just look at someone struggling and say, yeah, well, fuck this guy, I don't even know who that is. They will help whatever way they can. And giving a headlamp is a big deal, but battery is definitely easy. But if your light would die, I'm sure they would. And it has happened to me in the past where my main headlamp died, and it was not the battery, the lamp itself died. My backup would never finish the whole night, and someone was like, hey, have a backup, have it. So there's always a worst case scenario where you will find a solution, as long as you're not an asshole.
So I got a short story about a light dying on me. 4 a.m. start at Leadville. I started with a headlamp on my head, and I think at the top of 6th Street, it died. Within a mile of the start, right? So luckily, it was 4 a.m. and it was the start of the race, so it was getting light. It wasn't going dark. So I didn't have much time without a light, but and the group is really packed and tight. Simon has been on the road before at Leadville for that 4 a.m. start. There's just a lot of people running, and so I slowed down a little bit, and I waited till the guy with the brightest light came running by me, and I ran up next to him and I said, "Hey man, what's your name?" And I just talked to him until the sun came up.
But what did you do for
the whole time.
What did you do for Turquoise Lake?
Oh, I ran with my friend
With
Kevin.
him, that was enough?
Yeah. I just ran on his shoulder.
But
on that single track.
A lot of people face plant even with the light around Turquoise Lake. So congratulations for not hurting yourself.
I'm a little familiar with
It's harder than actually make it sound. Yeah, but still, a little rock, a little root. I think it's impressive. I would have slowed down massively. trying to navigate it with someone else's light. Because I always do that at the beginning of a race. I parasite other people's light a lot, because especially on the road, you don't really need. And there's always someone like with a huge Cocodona light that like is like a street lamp basically. I'm like, it's fine. I'll save my battery for now. But Turco's Lake single track, I would have struggled.
Fanny, are you? What's your travel schedule look like to get to Arizona? What does that itinerary look like? So you're going to have a little busy week, I would imagine, just shuffling everything there.
Well, I'm flying there on Saturday. I'm get there at noon, so I'm actually renting a car for 24 hours so I can go to buy all this stuff, because I'm not sure, like, restriction in the flight. I only have one luggage. So I want to make sure I have a list of things I want to buy, like a bucket so I can soak my feet with, since I have a crew, I'm going to be spoiled. What else? Some food I like to have, any liquids. And then I probably might not be able to make it to drop my bags in the Saturday afternoon. You can do it in Phoenix. Then I'm not clear, probably going to sleep in a tent if I can catch a ride either from Simon or take the shuttle from the airport the Sunday morning to get to Black Canyon City.
I mean, we can definitely give you a ride. I don't know the detail, but we'll be around with the car. It's we're a little unlucky though on my side. Nora, my wife, was supposed to be the crew, but she has a work trip, I think Monday through Thursday, so she won't be there for the bulk of the race. But I have a right to go there, and someone will pick me up at some point. So
the Monday during the race, like the Monday to Thursday.
She will be. Yeah, she will be gone.
Okay.
So that also means I cannot finish the race in 3 days. I have to take my time. So one good reason for me to sleep.
You have to.
Yeah.
I would have finished faster, but it's like that.
Yes, I'm planning to sleep in the tent at the starting line, even though Keith and Gwen just told me they might be parked there with their trailers. I might be able to sleep the night before the race. And then I'm planning at the end of the race, I booked a room for Friday and Saturday night in Flagstaff. And I'm just planning to take the Greyhound bus to come back to the airport. And then I'm sleeping in Phoenix one more night, because the flight was just cheaper day after. That it's going to force me to rest another night in Phoenix. So that's my logistic. What about you?
That's a pretty quick turnaround. I thought you would have been there a little bit longer. That's efficient.
If my flight is canceled Saturday, I might be very nervous. But yeah.
So, just for the listeners that don't know, like Fanny is in Canada, and so that's what she was talking about, the restrictions, and maybe bringing less gear and having to purchase it here as she lands in Phoenix. That was the reference there. My plan is I'm going to do essentially the same thing. I'm going to drive down on Saturday. I live I think it's about 12 hours maybe, roughly. It's 12 hours to Phoenix, so it's a little bit less, whatever that difference is to Black Canyon. So a little bit closer. I think I'm going to do most of the driving on Saturday, if not all of it, and show up on Sunday. Same thing. I haven't figured out sleeping accommodations yet. I'm sleeping in my truck. I don't know if Thomas and I, my crew guy, can sleep in the truck together. That might be awkward. So we'll probably get a room somewhere, but I haven't really finalized too much of it just yet. And then we'll, fortunate enough, we'll be on. Flagstaff is actually closer to my house, so it's shorter drive home for the return trip back after the event. So.
Nice, yeah. The opposite of Simon.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting to think, it's adding like a solid 2-3 hours to the drive back. So I guess we cover some distance when we're running for 5 days.
Yeah. Have you guys tried running with your 4 liters of water, 4 to 5 liters of water?
I have not.
The requirement is 4.
Yeah.
I actually did. So I think before we came on air, I swept a course, a 25K section of a 100K course this weekend, and because I was walking and picking up flagging and taking pins or flagging out of trees and picking up signs for wrong way and all the signs that the events have. I swept the course behind the last runner, cleaning up all that stuff with 4 liters of water on my back. Actually, 4.5 liters. I wound up drinking a half and finishing with 4 total. I was out there for about 3 or 4 hours or so. And I've done it on other occasions as well, just to kind of feel the weight of the water. I don't normally travel with that much water. I don't think most people do in ultras.
No.
But I normally go light on water anyway. So this 4 liters is kind of a stretch for me. So I have been peppering my shoulders and wearing a pack. And I think to even elaborate a little bit more, the requirement is just for the listeners that don't understand, the requirement is 4 liters of water from mile 8 to mile 37. You have to start with the capabilities of 4 liters of water. And at mile 8, you have to have 4 liters of water at the mile 8 aid station to mile 37. Because the stretch is really long. There's only a couple little water spots. And I think there's a maximum requirement of the water you can receive from the water drop. I think you can only take a liter of water. So it's not like you can drink all 4 liters and replenish 4 liters. You're only getting little bits of water. So even though the requirement is 4 liters, there's a lot of banter in the 250 world. I'm sure that these 2 other athletes have heard as well. But the banter is that they're taking 6-7 liters of water, and it was really hot last year. So that's the scenario. So my plan is to I'm going to have a bigger pack with less gear in it for the first 37 miles. I'm going to have a bigger pack. It's a little more cushiony shoulder straps, and it has a waist harness, a little more of a mountaineering type of pack, and carry my 4 liters of water and just the minimal supplies that I need to get me to mile 37 before I put on the pack that I'll wear for the remainder of the race. So I'm going to actually switch packs. That's my plan.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will do that. That's also what I'm planning to do. I was supposed to test that gear at Zion last weekend, and then I got lazy and I decided I would just carry what I would normally carry for that race. So there's really no good explanation other than I looked at it and I was like, I don't feel like it, which is a bad sign for Cocodona. But I was like, this is a future Simon problem. Today Simon doesn't want to struggle for no reason. I don't want to carry because I'll carry at least 5 liters. I think 4 liters cutting it short, but yeah, 5 liters is pretty heavy. It's 5 kilos just of water plus everything associated to that. So it's gonna be rough, but you don't want to fall behind in hydration. It can get dangerous even. So yeah.
I have the same plan to switch back, so I have a big one for just the first day. On that note, that reminds me, the water filter. I know they're going to let us know if there is water source, especially for the first day. But just a reminder, I don't know if you had that problem before. If you don't use your water filter all winter, the first time you get to use it, it's dry. You have to soak it 45 minutes before. Actually, I did that to mine, and I was looking inside, and it was something is dark, like brown or black. I'm like, okay, time to change my water filter. It's been a few years. That must be
extra flavor. It's fine. You can keep it. It helps with constipation also.
Calories.
Yeah, calories, protein, free protein, diarrhea. It's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so funny.
What else is special for that race? Gaiters, obviously. I think most people will wear gaiters for some sand, maybe there. How many pair of shoes?
I've given up on gaiters.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I've really...
Good. I appreciate that, Simon, because I feel like I'm the only one ever at the starting line without gaiters. Even Mark at Leanne this weekend ran with gaiters on. I still haven't bought into them. I can't wear them. They irritate me.
Okay.
I've tried them once, and I've never worn them again.
I used to wear them. I used to like them, and then I felt that if it's sand, it will get in anyway. True. And if it's anything bigger than that, I never really have problem. They look cool though. That's the thing. So
you look the part. I mean, you look like
a pro or like a serious trail dirt bag. Really, when you have that, it comes a lot from I think backpacking trip. I think they do that a lot, like a true hiking. Almost everyone has these. So that's probably where I got mine from, actually, probably listening to these things before doing trail running. And yeah, shoe I'm trying Speed Goats. I was happy last weekend, so I think I'm going to go with that. Brand new shoes.
How many
They
pair
look
of
the
shoes do
par.
you bring?
How many? One pair. I mean, maybe two pair because of water crossing, but I don't go crazy about it. You have a more sophisticated plan there?
I'm at least two. I'm debating if I don't know if I'm gonna have room for three pairs. And I bought a half size bigger, and one is one size and wider. And I didn't feel much difference into the one size bigger, but wider. I think it's gonna help.
My plan, I'll probably bring 4 pairs of shoes. Fanny, to your
Oh.
point, a lot of people a lot of people do that. They buy that half a size bigger, and then when you're not doing 250 miles across Arizona, what are you gonna do with that shoe? Like nothing, right? So here's a little trick that I've experienced that's worked for me. I have taken my shoe at mile 180 at a Moab, let's say Moab 240, and I've taken the insert out, and it just gives me just enough space to feel like it's a half a size bigger. The interior space grows because I took the insert out, and then I could put the insert back in, and I could use the shoe next week when I'm running just a 10 miler.
Or you can keep it for your next 200 miler, for the end of the next 200 miler if you do another one.
True.
Speaking of
It's true.
changing the insole, I was told to bring extra, instead of changing your shoes, sometimes just changing the insole, make you feel like a fresh shoe, it's dry, and just the cushioning is a bit different. So it could be a good idea to bring an extra in your drop bags if you have hot spot under your feet.
But 4 pairs, Brian. Walk me through that.
Yeah, honestly, it's a great question. I didn't think when I did Moab one time, or both times I did Moab, I brought 4 pairs of shoes. I brought 1 pair of road shoes. Just they feel a little more comfortable. They're a little more squishy. Of course, if it's like a really rocky trail, you don't want that. But in some sections, maybe it's worth it to have that comfort, and the road or the course might be able to help you out with that. Maybe it's an improved dirt road or a section through town that's paved at Cocodona. I changed shoes in Moab at mile 72. They were giving me a little rub, nothing to be concerned about, but I thought, why not put on a different pair of shoes and see if the rub will rub somewhere else and kind of alleviate the initial rub, right? So I'm like, just robbing Peter to pay Paul here. And I ran 50 miles in that shoe, and that shoe felt really uncomfortable for some reason. And then I tried on a third pair of shoes. I feel like I'm doing the reference to the nursery rhyme with the three little bears. I feel like I'm doing the Three Little Bears story right now. So I put on the third pair of shoes, and they were just right. And I wound up running almost the whole the remainder of the race with it, which is more than half of it in a road shoe, and it felt great. It wasn't ideal. It was a sections of it can be pretty gnarly trail, but I ran the remainder of the race in a road shoe, and it worked perfectly fine. So,
But why didn't you
if
start
you
with
had-
that pair
yeah.
of shoes the next time? If you feel that they were a bit more suitable.
They're a road shoe. I mean, I'm not gonna. I didn't think that it was. It's a fair question, Simon. But I also, I also thought like maybe it wasn't the most ideal situation, even though it worked for me at the moment. Maybe a road shoe on 240 miles of trail isn't a great option. So I did try other shoes. The second time, I think I only changed shoes twice. The difference between Fanny and I in our shoes is that we'll have a driver, at a minimum, a crew that'll be able to cart those shoes. So why not have extra shoes for yourself? That means just more drop bags, more things to pick up, and more things to shuttle along farther down the road, kicking the can down the road. So I think in an event where if I was doing it solo, I probably would minimize that. I know I've worn the same shoes for hundreds that I've done unsupported. For that same reason, because it was kind of challenging to figure out logistics of drop bags and where everything was going to be and all that kind of stuff. Are you changing shoes in hundreds, Simon?
I would have thought I'd change more often shoes than you do in 100. It's very rare, but at Leadville, for example, I always do after mile 60. So because there's a water crossing at 40, 60, I know it in advance. So at 60, I just change it. And to avoid blister, I would not necessarily need to, but I just think it's practical. Otherwise, it's pretty rare. Bad water, I changed shoes, I think 5 miles in, right? I was actually with you, Brian, at that time. And
Yeah.
for whatever reason, the first shoes, it's clear they were going to give me blisters, even though I ran with them plenty of time before. So I just switched it and kept these shoes for the whole way. Then it was no problem. So it was more of an exceptional situation. Otherwise, the same shoes. And at least half the time it's only road shoes. Unless it's very technical, I don't see the need for trail running shoes.
What kind of shoe are you going to bring? Cocodona. Especially you, Brian, you say you use road for Moab to 40. Are you going to bring road shoes for Cocodona?
I will bring a pair of road shoes. I was running for a company at the time, a shoe company at the time, as a ambassador athlete. So I was only allowed to use their shoes during that time. I no longer run for that brand anymore. So the door's wide open, and I feel like I can run in any shoe I want. But I just like Simon, this weekend I got myself a pair of Speed Goats, and I broke them in on 2 different runs, and I really enjoyed them. I'm always a late adopter. We kind of talked about this in the last couple episodes, Simon and I did, but I'm always like a late adopter to things, and I was like, man, these Speed Goats are great. But they've been around for a while. They're on like Speed Goat 6 or something like that, right? But this is my first pair, so I'm pretty excited to have found myself in Speed Goats. But I also will use like a Tecton X. I will use like maybe a Topo Ultra Venture, and I'm not exactly sure on the road shoe yet. It might be a Hoka road shoe, but if not, it'd probably be a Topo road shoe. But I haven't really figured out the road shoe just yet.
What about you, Fanny? Are you a Hoka girl? Can't remember.
Yeah, Speed Goat. Yeah. I'm gonna bring Peregrine for the first section probably. But then wider than usual. And just I'll bring 2 different pairs so that can feel completely different. And I might alternate. We'll see. But usually in 100-miler, I don't change. I use the same pair of Speed Goat usually. So we'll see.
I mean, I like Brian's point. If there's any shoe company that would give me shoe, I would change 5 times if they give me the shoes, no problem. I'll showcase all of the shoes within one race. But in the meantime, I guess I'm going to be a little bit more like, this is what I need. And there's so much risk with shoes also. When you switch them too much, that's something I'm finally getting myself around, like trying Hoka Speed Goat and everything. I already like the shoes I have. Why would I try something else in a long race and then have blisters all over the place? It's nice to test things out, but I'm not unhappy with my choice so far. But I think I could do a little better, because it's true that for me, what has been a recurring problem is definitely heel pain after long race, heel and Achilles. I'm better with the Speed Goat. I don't know if it's luck for this race or it really helped. So maybe I was somewhat satisfied before, but there's some value to shopping around a little bit, and I can go much longer now. So we'll see. I like that the Speed Goats, also the initial on the back is SG, which is my name also. So I was like, this is destiny. They made these shoes for me. It's perfect.
What about sock strategy? Are you going to change often?
Yeah, that I think is from hiking for me. That's definitely the biggest thing to avoid blisters when you're kind of in your shoes for too long. You just switch them up. I don't know that it necessarily means I'll bring like 10 different pairs. Like sometimes I'll just recycle. The most important is that they dry in between in station. Yeah.
How are you going to make it dry? How are you going to make them dry if you don't have a crew?
I strongly believe in my ability to have someone help me out somewhere. That's my half-assed kind of effort. Is I'm sure someone can like kind of open my bag or something.
Excuse me, can you dry my socks?
Yes.
What I hear, Simon has no idea how they're going to dry. Like, he has no idea. Like they're going to be dangling on the back of his backpack. And, I will change. There's a lot of things I don't plan. Like I feel like they're organic, like that sleep strategy that we talked about earlier. But the sock changing is more ritualistic in the fact that every aid station, as long as I have the truck and the crew there for
Okay.
myself, I'll rinse my feet, I'll put on new socks, and I'll decide on what shoe I'm going to leave with, whether the shoe I had on was working. And unlike Simon, because I do have a crew or will have a crew, I will bring 10 different pairs of socks. And that's kind of like a spur in the moment. Do I want the big fluffy ones or do I want the thinner race ones? Is it the daytime and I need a thinner one, or is it nighttime and I want a thicker, warmer one? Do I want a high one? Do I want a low one? All the different heights and lengths and sensations. I will bring a full box of socks, if not two. And yourself, Fanny, the same ideas or what?
Yeah, me too. I'm planning to bring many pair. Yeah, same. I have toe socks. I usually train without toe socks, so I'm gonna bring definitely my regular training socks as well. For a race, I usually use my wool socks, toe socks, but I'll see. Like you, I'll bring many pairs and see how I feel when I get there.
It's funny, Fanny, that you asked this question or brought it up because I think it's also in our questions in the coach's corner here. And we could kind of maybe just shoot it around the horn here and talk about it as well, seem as though we're on the topic. But the question is how to help prevent blisters plus bruised toenails, blood blisters under toenails, and toenail loss. No matter the brand of shoes this person tries, the type of socks, trying to strike differently, this occurs with half marathons and up. So it sounds like this person's having issues with feet and blisters and toenails. And so we're on the topic of socks. So I'll rinse my feet in the longer distances, maybe not a 50K or maybe even 50 miles. I'll probably just tough it out with the socks that I have and my shoes on. But at 100 or better, maybe not even at 100, quite honestly, I guess if I'm thinking about it. But definitely at the 200, I'm rinsing my feet. I'm changing socks often. I'm debating on if I'm going to put on the same pair of shoes or a different pair of shoes. I saw an athlete, though, of mine send me a picture of his feet. He was showing me a blister, but I saw his toenails, and they were, like, long. Like, there was, like, whites to his toenails, right? There was, like, extra nail hanging, and his toes were all jacked up and twisted. And so I think, like, foot care is super important, maybe more important than the dang shoes that we're putting on our feet, right? So keeping your toenails, for myself, I keep my toenails like super trimmed and low. I cut away like all the excess dead stuff. If there's an old callus or an old blister from another event of some sort or some other training run that created that, I will shave it away once it's dead and dried up. I will always try to clean my feet up, and keep them healthy in that regard. And during these longer ones, especially the 250, and that's what maybe prompted me to think of this, Fanny, was your question is foot care. So my approach is to rinse my feet at the first aid station, maybe not the first aid station at mile 8, but maybe 37, right? Okay, we'll go 37. So we'll get to 37. I'll rinse my feet in my little bucket of water. I'll dry them off, and then I'll use a foot goo or a shoe goo or what is it called? Happy Toes or one of those brands. I can't think of the name of the product that I use off the top of my head. I'll try to remember to put it in the show notes. But I'll lube my foot up with a cream all around. The other one that works well is Decidin, which is the baby diaper rash cream. And the baby diaper rash cream and the foot care ones have something special in it. Simon might know as a scientist, but there's some special medicine in it that's like alcohol based, and it actually pulls the moisture out of the skin from a baby's bottom when they have a rash, and that's why it works well on our feet. Then I'll put my socks on, then I'll put my shoes on, and that's the process I keep using over and over on these 200 plus mile events for myself. Do you guys do any of those things?
Well, I was about to ask you, do you tape your feet? Because I know I tape my feet and I put something similar to Desitin.
I won't tape unless I need it.
Okay.
The tape will be a reactive instead of a proactive. I don't have the common hot spots every time on the same spot.
Okay.
So it'd be hard for me to tape preemptively. So I'm taping as I go if needed. Yeah.
What about you, Simon?
Yeah, I think I don't want to double down on so many of the points because I agree with a lot of what Brian said. And I think when it comes to blisters or losing toenails, I mean, they're very related anyway. A lot of it is problem solving. And you have things that will just make you more sensitive to damage. And there are things that just cause more damage. So having the right shoe with the right fit, if your shoe is too tight or the toe box is too tight, that's when your toenail will just hit all the time. And that's creating damage. But sometimes it can be you have a humidity problem, like you mentioned, taping. I always tape my feet, and it's because I have my hot spot. I know that my big toe on the outside, on the inside, is always a potential problem. I tape it; it's solved for the future. So it's kind of reacting to that. And the picture that Brian described, I mean, I can see it. It's the kind of picture that, I mean, you see it and you don't want to eat after that immediately. Keeping your nail trim, like it's such an important one, because otherwise it's kind of sticking out and it's always going to hit. But sometimes if it's a problem that occurs only on rocky trail, sometimes it's just that your shoe doesn't really have toe protection. It's maybe just a running shoe, it's a little soft, and you just hit a lot of rocks from the way you're running or your gait is, and that's just enough to create damage. But the good thing about losing toenail is once you lose them, you cannot lose them again. So some people just remove them. You disagree, Brian?
I've definitely lost the same toenail.
Yeah,
4
but
times.
you let it grow, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, it
Yeah,
grows
so
back,
you-
and then 2 seasons later, I lose it again.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's not what I meant. What I meant is when you have 9 toenail, because you lose your big toenail,
Oh,
you cannot
yeah,
lose
yeah.
it again until it
You
comes
can't
back.
lose that big one again.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
when it's gone. You're right. Totally. Yeah.
Problem solved for 6 months.
Yeah.
But some people remove it surgically, which I think is kind of nuts. But some people do that.
So
What?
the only other point I kind of you touched on, Simon, which I thought about, but I didn't reflect on it either, was the toes jamming in the front of the shoe, and that also could be contributed from not tying the shoe properly. I also see people like not tying it securely to the front of their foot securely. I see it in high school track, which I'm coaching currently right now. Like these kids show up and they want to slip their shoes on and off all day long, and then they go run track, and I'm like, you have to tie the shoe to your foot. Like that's the way it works. And if you run downhill for a long ways with just a shoe that's just a little loose, that's how you get that tapping in the front of the shoe, for long periods of time. And it doesn't have to be that long, quite honestly. Just a mile or two like that, and your toenail's going to just get impacted from the front of the shoe so much that it's going to implode. You're going to get the blood blister under the toenail, which inevitably is going to lead to it dying and falling off, a tragic death in the next 2 weeks, and other issues as well. So just making sure that the shoe's secured on your foot properly, that you have the right size shoes on, all those things should be understood, but need to be mentioned as well.
Yeah. What about you,
How are
Fanny?
your-
Do you have
How are your
problem
feet,
with your
Fanny?
feet? Yeah.
Well, my feet, I have lots of place. I know I usually get blisters. I tape a big chunk of it. I used to always lose my toenail, my pinky toenails. And I think it's because my shoes were not wide enough. So I finally talked with somebody, a store owner, and he told me try wider shoes, and that solved the problem. Now it's pretty good. I tape and I put some kind of lubricant to make sure, and toe socks, and seems to work. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, the toe socks is a great suggestion for anyone who has that kind of issue between toes. For me, it wouldn't work because that's not where it happens. But the one I do is thinner inner socks to absorb humidity. That would be more my problem. That has helped a lot. But it's
I just had my first pedicure. I did it a week and a half ago. So we'll see if that helps. But they say to have it a month before. I just went 5 weeks to be sure because I was very worried they would remove too much. I have lots of calluses, but we'll see. I still have some left, so I feel like I'm still protected. Yeah.
I went to, I got a pedicure after Moab, and they didn't think I was funny when I asked if it was half price because I only had half my toenails. Well, thanks so much, Fanny, for sharing your helpful tips and just talking through Cocodona with us for Simon and I, who are still planning, and it sounds like you're pretty planned. I think you're ready.
Maybe I
I think
am.
you're ready, Fanny. I think you're pretty ready.
Yeah, I still have some things to get ready, like the number of foods. Make sure I plan. I haven't done my drop bags yet, but I try to wait more last minute so I can remember what is in there. Yeah.
Well, thanks again, Fanny, for coming on and telling us, sharing your stories with us. We appreciate it. I know Simon and I are looking forward to seeing you in the next 3 weeks.
Me too.
And we'll definitely all be celebrating here shortly. We'll move on to the altitude endurance coaching kudos section of the show. It is altitude endurance coaching athletes that I coach. And we're just giving them some shout outs. This week was actually a really big weekend. We're recording on Monday night, April 15th. And what that means is that Jen B was within a minute of PRing at the 128th Boston Marathon today. So super exciting for her. She was less than a minute away from a PR, so that's awesome. Caesar G, he finished the Desert Rats 50K this weekend in Fruita, Colorado. Tracy B ran a PR and was 10th female overall at the Millbrook Trail Marathon. And Brad D was the overall winner of the Full Circle Trail Marathon. Awesome work, guys. Hard work pays off, and I've been telling you guys that for years. So congrats.
Yeah, I think also last weekend was Zion Ultra. There were a lot of people, and I'm sorry I don't have the name in front of me, but people that ran their first 100 mile, 100K out there. I can think of people like Adam. I can think of TY, Jonah. A lot of really people pushing their limit. It was a tough weekend for anyone who was at Zion. It was hot as fuck in the middle of the day. So congratulations to everyone who pushed through that. Suffering through that middle day it was rough for everyone, but it was amazing.
Congrats. Yeah, that sounded like a tough event. And so congrats getting it done.
Also, the Gorge Waterfall this weekend. I know my pacer Keith was there. Congrats to him for the 100K. And I know Elliot Carden got second place. I think it might have been a golden ticket, that race. I wonder if that's if he got his spot for Western State. I hope for him.
We had Mason also was a guest a few weeks back from Ultra Crew Hub, who was he was sweeping the 30K, racing the 50K and the 100K. So he did a lot over that weekend. Congrats, Mason. We actually talked about it, if it would be easier to run a 100-mile or to do that, and I have no doubt it would be much easier to just run a 100-mile where you're justified to just power hike towards the end. So yeah, it's amazing performance by him.
So the next section we have is the Coach's Corner. We already answered one of the questions already because it kind of came up again with the conversation of socks and foot care. The second question that was on here, and by the way, both questions came from my friend Lynn D in Colorado Springs, and she asked her running group. The running group is Moms Run This Town / She Runs This Town, and they go by MRTT or SRTT running groups. And so these questions came in from that running group, so we appreciate the questions. We appreciate you guys listening in Colorado Springs. The second question for both of you guys, as well as myself, is as a pacer, to talk or do not talk to your runner. I would never expect my runner to have a conversation with me. However, storytelling can help me with the pain or cause the runner more pain. Discuss. Kind of a weird question, but really, I think the question kind of alludes to like, what is the role of a pacer? How do you handle a pacer if you are the pacer, which all of us have been? I don't know if Simon's been a pacer before, but Fanny and I know I have because we've done it together for Simon. So it's a great round-robin conversation. Maybe Fanny could kick it off for us.
Definitely, I like my pacer to talk. I know I have when I have friends, I ask if they just came back from traveling. So for travel, just keep some story for me. And I don't think it happens that personally that I ever say like I need to be in my head. I always need to be entertained. So the more the better.
Simon, for yourself, what's your take on that?
I think it really depends on the runner and even on the pacer for that runner, and then on what you're going to talk about. I think the general rule for me is like, yeah, sure, talk, but like the comment mentioned, please don't have expectation that I will necessarily respond much more than like grunt, like and it's not that I'm not interested or that I'm not listening. It's just that this is the energy that I can actually exteriorize my emotion. But the discussion is very, very appreciated, and it will distract you from the pain. You get to know someone a little bit better in these moments, so it's actually very appreciated. um, I'm sure there are topics that I would like, please let's not focus too much on that. Anything that would be about, I think, yeah, breaking your legs, or something that there's pain associated to the story, which I can really relate to, or discussing about something that sounds just gross. Like if you tell me about your toenail and they're not trimmed and then they're falling off, and at the same time I'm trying so much to eat food, but now you're just disgusting me. I'm like, let's talk about like the mountains and how pretty it is, and not necessarily about that time that you twist your ankle and like it was so big and painful, and that's not something I need to hear. Or that you had rhabdo and you almost died. I'm like, I don't need to hear that right now. I need you to tell me about beautiful stories.
I remember at Badwater, Simon was not that responsive for a while, but I quizzed him after the race, and he still remember what I was talking about, so that was good.
I was listening. Yes, I was,
he was listening.
Even though it sounded like I was like, I don't care. It's like, I do care. I do care. Yeah.
I think I think all those are great answers, and they kind of wrap up exactly the same thoughts that I have. I think some additional points are, even in the three of us, between Fanny, Simon, and myself, you can hear that we're social people. We're talkers. We like to talk and converse, but we do have dark moments when we're being paced. When I was pacing Simon, he was the same thing. He was doing the grunting, and I was telling stories. And again, he can recall them, just like Fanny had mentioned. But it doesn't mean he's not listening. It's just the level of exertion is there enough that you don't want to expend more by trying to use your brain and tell a story or relate to a story. Just listening is enough sometimes. So I think my overall blanket statement for the question really is like, you got to read the room. You got to figure out is it are they looking for you to talk more? Are they looking for you to talk less? Do they want you to run in the front? Do they want you to run behind?
Yes.
And I think it's just as easy as just knocking that out right off the get-go. Fanny, hey, nice to meet you, Fanny. We just met at the aid station because I'm going to pace you, and I've never met you before because I've done that before as well. So sometimes we don't even know these pacers or the people that we are pacing. So I'm like, hey, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to be in the back? Do you want me to be in the front? Do you want me to talk more? Do you want me to talk less? Do you want to tell life stories, or do you want to share in that, or are you okay with just putting earphones in and kind of slugging it out for an hour and a half, listening to our own thing, and then we could talk later if you want. But I think really reading the room and just kind of spelling it out and seeing what that runner needs, and being that runner that's able to share that as well. Like, hey, look, it's late in the race. I'm not feeling that great. I'd love for you to tell me a story, but I'm not going to be as responsive as I was in our Zoom meeting. I'm just not feeling the same way.
Yeah, I think reading the room is super important. I think that the tone of what you say to your runner is also important, or the type of things that you say. And not everyone will need or respond well to certain things. I think there's like a tone, both cruise and pacer, that is more kind of motherly love, and like, you're doing so great, you're looking strong, and this is fantastic, and that kind of overly positive vibe sometimes can resonate well with people, and for me that works. And then there's more like the Goggin love, which is like, stop being a little bitch, like, you gotta run faster, he's passing you, accelerate. You do that to me, like, I'm just gonna slap you and say, shut the fuck up. Like, just lie to me, say that I look strong. Like, that's what I need to hear. And it's not that one is better than the other, it's one is better for me than the other, and that will be the polar opposite with other people. I mean, seriously, you go pacing Goggin and you're like, give me a hug, you're doing great. I don't think he would appreciate that, although it would be funny to try. So Goggin, if you need a pacer, I'm available, but I cannot guarantee. But yeah, you need to read the room, and understand what that person needs.
Yeah, I would just add, maybe keep in mind that you are probably responsible to make sure you're on course, even though you get maybe caught up with the conversation. At this beginning, might be excited to talk with your runner. Make sure keep in mind that you have help. You there to help your runner to keep in track where you're going, not taking the wrong turn.
As much as being a pacer is reading the room, sometimes that's challenging. Sometimes it's a little bit easier. Also, I think what I struggle with when I'm pacing somebody is actually taking care of myself. I feel so responsible for them. At the aid station, I'm getting you water, Simon. I'm getting you food. And then, we wrap it all up. We put everything back in the pack and we put the pack on and we leave. And I've left an aid station with no water and no food and had to go another 15 miles before the next aid station. And so just being mindful that I think of it like an airplane. Like they tell you when the oxygen thing falls out of the overhead, and you put they tell you to put your oxygen mask on before you help the person next to you, right? So you got to make sure that you're helping yourself as well as, and that's the way you're going to be able to help the runner themselves the best as well, right? If you're not helping yourself, you're screwing the both of you guys over. So just be mindful of that. That's where I've struggled the worst at, is taking care of myself when I'm supposed to be taking care of someone else.
Yeah, a situation I've never been in, and I'm curious if you've had that situation, is that I think the pacer is also, to a large extent, responsible for making sound judgment, because you're the one who's not tired. So drawing the line between this is safe and this is not safe, and telling a runner like, hey, like, no, like right now, no, like don't go. I think that would be difficult, because you want to support them as much as possible, but sometimes, I mean, I've heard stories of like a runner pissing blood and they still keep going. I was like, I think as a pacer, you failed if you let your runner do that and potentially have permanent damage. But curious if you've ever had to deal with kind of more a safety situation where you had to make a judgment call.
I haven't paced that often, but
I have not either. Maybe not to that level. Not the pissing blood scenario that you just mentioned, Simon. But maybe on a lower scale. Staggered around in the middle of the night, in the middle of the woods, and the runner says like, hey, just like I told them, like, hey, if you're not moving efficiently, let's lay down and take a quick nap. But the spot that they wanted to lay down was not a safe spot. Like just a little, like on a ledge of a mountainside. You're like, hey, if we just move 10 more minutes, we might be in a safer spot. So just, you're right, making those sound judgments and being like, hey, this isn't the best spot to lay down and take a nap. It's trail isn't wide enough. People are still going to come by us, and now we're impeding their lane of traffic. And the only safe space to delay is on the trail because the rest of it is unsafe. So just, yeah, you're right. The reason of sound and making smart decisions is there to some level, but unfortunately, I've never made big decisions. Well, again, thank you guys so much for your time. I appreciate it. I appreciate all the questions to the Colorado Springs moms group. Those were great questions and a great conversation. Thanks, Fanny, for coming on and talking with us again. And we'll see you guys soon.
Yes, I look forward to see you. Okay, see you guys.
Yeah, looking forward to run with you again.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye.
I'm Simon, and that's Brian.
We'd be thrilled to connect with you beyond our show.
For all of your endurance coaching requirement, you can reach out to Coach Brian at altitudeendurancecoaching.com.
To explore more of Simon's content, visit Running with Simon on YouTube.
Don't forget to rate, like, and share our content regularly.
Your support means a lot to us. Thanks.